2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is one back. Walk him off.
Let's go, Dodgers! 2-0.
Yes, sir.
2-0. The Dodgers beat the Padres in Game 5 of the NLDS and are headed to the NLCS yet again. Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado. We knew we were doing a post-game. We didn't know if we'd be happy or sad, but holy crap, Yoshinobu Yamamoto and the Dodgers bullpen did their jobs. The Padres offense, the high-powered lineup, Fernando, Tatis, Machado, Profar, they haven't scored a run since Game 3, and their season is officially over. Anthony, you said right before coming on you made a bold move, and you invited some people over for this. Your brave nature was rewarded, but wow, what a decision by you.
It was probably the decision of the night. I'm not going to lie. It was, it went down to the wire just before 5:08. Was very unsure about having any of these people over at my house, but you know what? There was a lot of drinks that had already been bought, and a lot of food that had been brought. So I said, all right, let's open it up. We turned the patio TV on and watched all 9 innings. And needless to say, we were rewarded. There were some haters in the crowd. There's some haters in the crowd, but for the most part, it was a lot of high fives, a lot of screaming, some hoarse voices, and now I think a lot of adult beverages are flowing.
Yeah, and by the way, if you missed Kiké Hernandez post-game interview, I'm just going to tell you, I can't repeat the words he said on live television. We'll say that. It's worth a look. It's, are we live? Yes. And then he said some things. And look, Matthew Moreno, you're not listening live because you're at the stadium. You're covering this. I'll say it. Keektober, Anthony. Keektober is here. Ooh. The big home run. A couple great plays at third base in the 9th inning there on some balls that weren't exactly routine. He was my X factor before the game, Anthony. I had a list of 5 storylines that I thought you and I would be talking about. Number 5 was Kiké Hernandez. He has the big hit that gives the Dodgers a 1-0 lead. Teoscar Hernández adds one later. And look, I saw people on Twitter complaining the offense is asleep, the offense isn't good enough, etc. Yes, fair, true. They were winning. The whole time they were winning. They did just enough, and that's the name of the game. The offense doesn't get credit if they lose 8-7. They should get a little bit of credit when they win 2-0. They faced a great pitcher in Yu Darvish tonight and got the job done. But Kiké Hernandez, this is a guy that was terrible for most of the season, and yet you can't argue against the postseason numbers this guy has. You can't say, oh, everybody's the same guy in the regular season, they are the postseason. Kiké Hernandez is the poster child for why we know that's not true.
Look, we talked about earlier in the season when guys were coming back from injuries and around the trade deadline. Look, who's going to still be on this roster, who's not. And one of the names that we just did not really push out there was Kiké's, because I think for as bad as he had been, we knew they're going to keep this guy as long as he's
here for this.
They're going to keep him for these series, for this month. And it took Dave a while to get him into games. He did not disappoint as soon as he got in. And then Dave pulling the right levers, moving him over to third base. And boy, did that pay off in the 9th inning. We say what we say about Kiké, but let's give the flowers also to a guy who gets a ton of our criticism and takes a ton of heat, because Dave pulled a lot of the right triggers for a lot of this series, especially with the bullpen, but things like Kiké. And then the defensive move there at the end really paid off. So what a game, what a series. We said coming in, at least I know I did, it was shaky in terms of what the odds looked like because of the pitching. And we said, look, they're going to have to outslug. It's so hard to outslug somebody and win. And we saw that. I mean, they put up numbers in a couple of those losses. Yeah. And they also, in 2 of those wins, pitched like a team that looks like the best pitching staff in baseball. I don't know that they're that at this point, but they're good enough. I think they've shown that. And I think that's what matters, because if the bats can come alive just a little bit and the bullpen continues to do what they do, what they got out of Yamamoto tonight was beyond what anybody could have asked for.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. He made some mistakes, but he just never paid for them. And sometimes that works out in your favor.
I did a pregame show, by myself. And I said, here are the 5 things that I think if I had to rank these, we would be talking about postgame. And I'm going to not elaborate on these now because we got a bunch of super chats to get to. But number 1 was Yamamoto. I said, we're going to be talking good or bad.
No matter what.
Good. Number 2, Ohtani. Again, we're probably going to be talking good or bad. Probably doesn't deserve to be 2 on this list now, but 0 for 4, I believe, was it with 3 strikeouts tonight? Not good. Number 3, Dave Roberts. Again, good or bad, we're going to be talking Dave. Incredible performance by Dave Roberts. 4, the only one I whiffed on. I said Freddie Freeman's injury could be a storyline. It ended up not mattering. And then number 5 was Kiké Hernández. I said we're going to be talking about Kiké Hernández because he's going to have a big hit. He gets the biggest one of the night to give the Dodgers a 1-0 lead. Thank you to everybody joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. 2,400 people and counting across all platforms hopping in. That number, Anthony, I have a feeling might get to 40,000, 4,500. Could we eclipse 5,000 tonight? I wouldn't be surprised. Dodgers fans are celebrating tonight because not only did they win a winner-take-all, not only are they headed to the NLCS, but as our friend David Vassay said on this program, the Padres are headed their head in their hands back to San Diego. No more Fernando Tatis. No more Manny Machado. No more Jurickson Profar. No more Jake Cronenworth. No more Jackson Merrill. All of them headed south for the winter. Enjoy the offseason, San Diego Padres. Let's get to some of these super chats. Roman says, there's always next year, San Diego. Bleed blue. Yes, there is always next year. And I have to be thinking about next year right now, Anthony. But you and I, the Los Angeles Dodgers, we are not. 300 GJW. Great win. Bring on the Mets. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mets. Probably not a ton tonight, but in the days to come. Look, I'm glad we're not facing the Phillies. I'll say that. But
yeah,
everybody said that about the Diamondbacks last year, and then the Diamondbacks went to the World Series. So sometimes it's not the best team. It's the hottest team that you want to avoid. And right now, the hottest team, you can make a pretty compelling case, is the New York Mets.
I think we just beat the hottest team.
Fair.
I think there's an argument that it was the Padres.
Best teams, Dodgers and Padres in baseball. So whoever wins, I think, was going to be the favorite. But I guess I'm just saying let's not overlook the Mets because of the roster and because of all that, because they just beat a Phillies team that everybody kind of assumed was going to steamroll them.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think everybody would be lying if they said, okay, when that other side of the NLDS was paired up, if they didn't say, yeah, we would rather face the Mets, I don't know if I believe that. The Dodgers stack up much better against them, but like you said, sometimes matchup and momentum can matter in these series, and the Mets have it. They just pulled a huge upset against the Phillies, who were one of the best teams in baseball all year. And now we're going to put that heat to the test, and we put it to the test twice because coming into this series, the Padres were not only one of the hottest teams in baseball, but one of the best teams in baseball. And it took 5 games. But I think overall, the Dodgers did do a convincing job showing that top to bottom roster wise, they're the better club.
The thing that I love about what the Dodgers just did in this series, Anthony, is there were so many theories about this team and what they had or what they didn't have and who individual guys were or weren't. And what I find so funny about this, and I would say the same on both sides. It's a small sample size. So all of the narratives we had, I think, were built on small sample sizes. And if you wanted to destroy every single one of those narratives in a small sample size, you could. Oh, the Dodgers don't care as much. They don't have enough fight. Well, guess what? This team went down 2-1 in San Diego and bounced back, not allowing a single run. This team has a pitching problem. Yes, maybe they do. Starting pitchers are banged up. They didn't allow a run in 22, 23 innings consecutive. I believe they scored the last 15 runs in this one. Dave Roberts, all the stuff about him. Mookie Betts, all the stuff about him. Like Yamamoto against the Padres, every single guy that had some sort of talk about they couldn't do this or they can't do this or they don't want this, all got put to bed in one series. And I'm not saying it's not going to rear its head 3 or 4 days from now if the Dodgers stumble out of the gates against the Mets. But I'm more pointing out the fact that let's not overreact one way or the other to positive or to negative. If you've got a larger sample size, if you want to say the Dodgers bullpen is insane right now, you could say it because this group has proven over a long extended period of time how good they are. Mookie Betts has proven over a long period of time. But I just like that. I think, tell me if you agree with me on this, Anthony. I don't think there's a single Dodgers fan who is less confident in this team now than they were a week ago. And some might say, oh, well, duh, they're in the NLCS and not the NLDS. But I mean, what we saw from the Padres answered a lot of the questions that I think people rightfully in some cases had. And if those questions are answered, if Mookie Betts is the real deal, and if Yamamoto can be a dude, and if the bullpen is going to look like this and the bottom of the order is going to hit, like if those things are all true, I think a lot of the concerns people had a week ago are going to be wiped away.
Yeah, I think so. I think you look at the things that we were not confident about or unsure of, that were at least question marks coming into the series. Starting pitching, not great, but they got it when they needed it.
Yeah.
How would the bullpen hold up? Because they got taxed in September.
Yeah.
They have been absolutely lights out, at least in the second half of this series. And you know, how does Mookie perform? How does Freddie perform? Those kinds of questions. And even with the bum ankle, Freddie has been totally fine. And Mookie looks like he's broken out. I mean, he's hitting the ball well. Didn't have a great night tonight, but you know, basically 3 games in a row, we saw him put the barrel on the ball. So I think there's nothing to worry about at the moment there. Shohei was not regular season Shohei. However, let's not forget that they probably don't win game 1 if it's not for that 3-run home run he hits, and completely changes, I think, the makeup of what this series looked like. Because I think if the Padres jumped on him in game 1, stayed on top, never let him up, this very well could have been a short series.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, it's crazy to think of what the Dodgers could have done. So, let's see some more super chats here from Laura. She says, Dodgers baby, how sweet it is. I mean, Anthony, let me just ask you this and I'll set the stage. How confident are you in this group? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that this team potentially has what it needs to continue winning?
I'll say this. I had some things answered for me that, like I said, were the question marks coming in. One of those being Yamamoto. I think he showed tonight that he can be that big game pitcher. For me, he started to solidify that with the Yankees start before he got hurt. I thought that was as big a stage as he had ever pitched on, and on the national TV, and he came through. So I was just wondering if he could do it in this series. Game 1 didn't look great. Game 2 came out. Like I said, he made some mistakes, but he got away with things, and he was just good enough. He was just nasty enough to get away with some of those mistakes. So that's a question that was answered for me. The bullpen, fantastic. And I think the bats are alive enough. And so I think my confidence level for what this club can do going forward is as high as it's been probably since like May.
Yeah,
of the
I'm with
season.
you. I mean, because again, I just look, the next time Yamamoto takes the mound, we're all going to feel differently than we felt today.
Sure.
Obviously, the Mets doesn't come with the baggage that the Padres, I'm not saying they should be overlooked, but they don't come with the baggage and the bad vibes that it feels like we have every time we have to play the Padres, considering what they did to us this season. Obviously, the bullpen, I mean, I think we felt good about the bullpen. I don't know if anybody saw the bullpen being like, it would have been insane to predict, oh yeah, you know what? I think the bullpen's going to come in and throw 4 perfect innings with 5 strikeouts. Like, I think that's what's going to happen in a winner take all against one of the better offensive lineups in baseball. So you feel better about the starting pitch. I think Walker Buehler looked pretty good. I mean, all things considered, Yamamoto, obviously. And so you just start stacking these things. Mookie Betts is back. Hey, there's some things starting to fall the Dodgers' way. Laura, we appreciate the $20 super chat. How sweet it is. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. We say thank you, by the way, to all of the people joining us tonight live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're up over 3,200. Again, I think we're going to near 5. We'll see if we can get to 5,000 people in here celebrating the Dodgers. Let's get to some more of these super chats. We've got a bunch of them. Some Kiké Hernandez love as well. Don't care 187. Let's blank go. Hernandez bros. I'm not going to throw that up. We try and avoid. It's a family friendly show here, but we appreciate the super chat. Cordenas, thank you. Hernandez's absolutely right.
Yep.
Jose Machado, somebody call the police. The Hernandez brothers have escaped. Go Dodgers. I mean, Hernandez getting it done. On the other side, Yu Darvish, Jedi Engineer, points out, no, 0-5 in winner take all games. Che Yu Garbish is 0-5 in career elimination games. I think they said he's had a quality start in 4 of the 5. So not exactly his fault. It's a tough one for him, but
he was good tonight.
He was good. He was good. Yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to you've got to, I mean, they said on the broadcast, you have to feel for him. He did his job tonight.
Yeah.
He made 2 bad pitches. Both of them got punished. But hey, that's the task. The job is not to do okay. It's to do better than the other guy. And the Dodgers pitchers, Yamamoto included, were incredible. Tim says Kiké and Teo so clutch. Padres held scoreless for 18 innings, actually 24. I was nervous, but it was so worth it. Did your heartbeat slow down at any point? I mean, I'm like still profusely sweating from that ninth inning.
My shirt's sticking to me 100
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, I've been this way since like 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah.
Like I was nervous about it. Part of that was I didn't want to lose to the Padres and have to hear from those folks. Part of it was just being nervous, wondering about Yamamoto. Are they going to figure out Yu Darvish? Turned out they really didn't. But Yamamoto matched him. He was even better. The bullpen was great. All of those things, right? All those things. So, yeah, man. I mean, I'm still amped right now. Like I'm spiked.
I love this from Laura, by the way. Not a super chat. I need a gif of Padre champagne on a truck headed south on the 5. I'm with you. Matthew Moreno. Can we call in a favor? Hey, find the truck headed south with a bunch of champagne, please. And Matt, we'd greatly appreciate it. Ivan says, bias aside, Shohei had a bad divisional series, more horrendous ABs than extra base hits. Happy we won, but Mets are playing like a team of destiny right now. I think it speaks, Anthony, to the quality of this Dodgers team that they did this in spite of Ohtani being as bad as he was. I think he was 2 for his last 15 with like 7 strikeouts or something since that game 1, in which he had the big home run. So it was a big hit and they needed it, down 3-0 to tie the game. I mean, that was critical in a game they come back to win, but obviously the Dodgers are going to need a better version of Ohtani moving forward. The good news, Tanner Scott is not on any of the teams that the Dodgers are going to be facing moving forward, and neither is Yu Darvish, 2 guys who have just owned him in his career. So the hope is with some better, more favorable matchups, pitching-wise, then maybe Ohtani will sort of snap back to the version that we've become accustomed to.
Yeah, and let's be real. Like, they got to play the games, and so we'll see how this plays out. But on paper, this was a far worse matchup for Ohtani than the Mets look to be.
Yeah.
And the Padres had a guy for him in every high leverage kind of situation that he was going to come up in. And the Mets have some arms, but I don't think they have the abundance of them that the Padres did, and especially guys who match up that well against Shohei.
Yeah. $50 super chat here from J-Riff. J-Riff, we greatly appreciate the support and the super chat. Let's freaking go. Look at him, even editing himself to make sure that the super chat gets up. I mean, look, you pay $50, we'd probably put a bad word up on the screen. Right. I'm not inviting you to do it, but I'm just saying, okay? He says, most cathartic series win in years. Kiké said it best. All-time tense game, all-time post-game quote from Kiké Hernandez. Again, if you missed it when we are done here, go find the Kiké postgame video. You're going to see it everywhere on your social media feed.
It's already
incredible. I said pregame. I was with J-Riff. We did score predictions. I said 7-2. We had a couple 1-0 people. I said, look, I don't think I'm going to be alive if this is a 1-0 game. If they win, maybe. If they lose, unlikely. 2-0, I mean, is only marginally better. Although I will say, Anthony, that Teoscar home run took a lot of air out of the balloon because the relievers never let a guy on base. So being up 2 when the guy at the plate never has a chance to tie it, it's like, okay, Tatis is up. Fine, hit a home run, and then you still got to hit another one to tie it. So I'm with J-Riff, though. Unbelievably cathartic. The Padres demons are gone. The bad, we can't beat them. They were better than us in the regular season. Gone. 3 straight winner-take-all games lost by the Dodgers. Gone. 3 straight winner-take-all games won by the Padres. Gone. Like all of the bad juju, Anthony, has been kicked south, down I-5, if you will. And it feels good to be a Dodgers fan right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, there were some demons exercised in this series, not just because it was the Padres. That's part of it. But I think also the flops in the NLDS, the teams who get the bye, not being very successful, getting out of the NLDS, all of that stuff. Excuse me, some of the guys who had not performed in recent postseasons, all of those things, wrapped up into this ugly, like just mishmash of negativity. And they fought through that, and it didn't always look pretty. They got down 2-1 after winning game 1. They got blown out in one of the games. It was ugly. I was at that game. It was it was one of the worst atmospheres I've ever seen at Dodger Stadium. But they come through. They pay them back in San Diego, and then come home and do this. And the ultimate goal is much bigger. But I think this is a massive, massive series to tell this club, look, this isn't 2023. This isn't 2022. This isn't even 2021. This is different. This should feel different. Let's go. And now we realize once again that this is the team to beat.
Yeah.
And I think this series win does all of those things. And I think maybe changes some of the outlook. Like, let's be honest, like if you talk to them as players and you put a camera in their face, yes, they're going to say, look, we expect to win. We should win the World Series. But it takes something big like this to let them to put that extra charge, I think, into things. And I think now, not just as a fan base, but I think as a clubhouse, the vibe has changed.
Yeah, I'm with you. J-Riff, thank you for the huge super chat. Again, we greatly appreciate it. Nearing 4,000 people in here across platforms, 3,800 here to celebrate the Dodgers' victory over the Padres 2-0 in Game 5 of the NLDS. Saki Bomb along the same lines we were just talking about. Hopefully this win unlocks us. Feels like a monkey off our back just to win the divisional series. Totally agree. And that's right in line with what Anthony and I are saying. Under the sun, Dodgers and fans showed from first pitch and last out. Absolutely complete game. There were no let-ups. There were no hiccups at any point. Kudos to the fans. They were dialed in the entire time. They were loud. It felt like they got into the Padres' heads a little bit because this team that was so cocky and so confident couldn't do crap for however many innings. I believe the Dodgers, I think it was from the third inning on, the Padres didn't have a base runner. So again, shout out to the Dodgers and to their fans. Hawaiian Kira, so happy we don't get to see San Diego pop champagne at our house. Agreed. That would have sucked. The Padres had to watch us pop champagne in front of them. Their faces now twice, though. So that doesn't suck. I enjoy clinching the division and now winning the NLDS in front of San Diego.
Okay. We were talking about the vibe sort of shifting here a little bit and the Dodgers sort of seeing themselves a little differently. I'm seeing some stuff on social that says that some of these guys, Mookie included from what I saw, are saying like, we feel like the underdog.
Wow.
That's different. And it might be that they're, kind of gaslighting themselves, which is fine. Like MJ did it, Kobe did it, like, whatever. Like all the greats find a way to do something like that. But I think there's a change there. I think that they may truly feel that way. And in the years before where they flopped out, this was a situation where it was like, we are so expected to win. We have to be absolutely perfect. And anytime any little thing goes wrong, everybody reacted as if the sky was falling. And we see that a lot. And, as fans, we do it too. But I think that they also took on that sort of perspective and it seeped into their mentality. This feels different. And I think they really do feel like, you know what? We might be the team that everybody expected when the season started to go all the way, but they don't expect that of us anymore. And now we feel like we're an underdog. That's sort of that's that bunker mentality that it feels like this club has now.
Yeah. And I'm curious if they continue to feel that way. I don't think they're going to be able to convince themselves they're the underdog to the Mets. I don't think 80% of people are going to be picking the Mets like they were picking the Padres, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And Amanda Z, the cream rises to the top. Dodgers have been the best team in baseball. They showed why. I agree. I said from the beginning, Anthony, I thought these were the two best teams in baseball. They played like it. It was a great series, and it ends in dramatic fashion with a 2-0 Dodgers victory. Now, we've spent all this time, and rightfully so, talking about super chats and whatnot. Let's get to the guy that was at the center of all of it, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Unbelievable performance from a guy that, let's be honest, was controversial to have him starting this game. Anthony, I said before, hey, if you can get 2 or 3 innings from this guy, great. I would have chosen a bullpen game. Kudos to Dave Roberts, Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes, and company for making a move that wasn't popular, that wasn't necessarily, pulling out a 7-iron and hitting it right down the middle, but saying, hey, we paid this guy. He's our ace. We believe in him. 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Unbelievable. There's not a single person, Anthony, that was predicting 5 shutout innings from Yamamoto tonight. I don't think. If there was, somebody correct me. But unbelievable stuff from a guy that had struggled against the Padres, struggled in his first taste of the playoffs, and did not struggle at all tonight.
I had a sort of a weird confidence in him tonight. I didn't know how good he was going to be. I didn't know if they were going to win, but I had confidence that he was not going to take them out of the game tonight. Part of it is like, I really like this guy. Like I personally just like him. I feel about him the way I feel about Teoscar Hernandez. and he's become a fan favorite for me. But look, this guy has pitched on big stages. He's pitched on big stages this season. If you don't think that WBC game that he pitched in against the United States to win the championship was not big,
yeah,
I dare you to find some video of what that looked like in Japan that day when that game was happening, and then you tell me that wasn't a big game for him. That club, I mean, Shohei Ohtani gave that pregame speech about, let's stop admiring these guys and go and go beat them.
Yeah.
That was huge. That's a huge start for him, and he pitched really well there. And so I thought that, and he's had a little bit of a short history so far as a Dodger of a terrible start leading into a really good bounce back kind of performance. And I was hoping that this would be some of that today. He wasn't super sharp. That splitter wasn't exactly what we've seen it be in the past earlier this season.
Yeah.
But he was good enough. He was good enough. And that 5 shutout, man, if you say, I mean, you know what? I'll tell you, even when he was at his best this season, if you go, okay, in a winner take all game in the NLDS, he's going to give you 5 shutout. You good with that? Everybody goes, where do I sign up?
Yeah.
Totally. And that's what he gave you tonight. He was fantastic. And let's be honest, it wasn't like the Dodgers put up 8 runs tonight. He helped save their season.
Look, and there's going to be people nitpicking. They're going to tell you about the hard hit balls that he allowed. They're going to tell you about the whiff rate that wasn't necessarily as good as maybe you'd expect. 4 whiffs on 31 swings. And like, I would say, hey, fair. But here's the thing I would also add. We never give guys credit when they give up a bunch of runs and no loud contact and a ton of whiffs. We say, yeah, well, who cares? He didn't give up the runs. Yamamoto didn't give up the runs tonight. Yeah. And so, look, it wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. All that mattered was 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, got the job done, gets the victory for the Dodgers. And again, I think this is a confidence booster, not only for him, Anthony, but for the entire team, the entire organization, that next series, if this one goes deep against the Mets and you need a guy for game 7 and Yamamoto is rested, nobody's going to have issues. Nobody's going to have doubts about whether or not he can handle the moment because he answered the bell tonight. Now, I want to talk real quick about the bullpen as well, Anthony, because 4 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, not a typo. Perfect 4 innings from the Dodgers bullpen tonight. Evan Phillips, unbelievable 5 outs.
Fantastic.
Alex Vesia comes in and gets 1 out, gets hurt warming up. Michael Kopech, who I admitted I was nervous about coming in, throws an unbelievable inning and gets a strikeout to the point I would have left him out for the 9th. They bring in Trinan, doesn't matter. Another perfect inning with the strikeout for him. No strikeouts for Trinan, but 6 pitches for Vesia, 9 for Kopech, 9 for Trinan. The entire staff, 9 innings, 2 hits in a winner-take-all game against one of the best, if not the best lineup out there, and nothing, absolutely nothing.
It's hard to say how good this bullpen has been.
You literally cannot, there is no amount of exaggeration about this bullpen. Right. They faced 12 consecutive guys with a 1 or 2 run lead and did not allow a single base runner, Anthony. You literally cannot speak highly enough about the job that those 4 guys did.
They threw a shutout in a bullpen game and never used the bulk guy.
Right. And then two days later, did it again.
Game.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, and then did what they did tonight on the back of Yamamoto going 5 shutout. Just absolutely, I don't think anyone would have predicted that. Not against that lineup. And having to navigate through the middle of that, the top and middle of that order so many times and being perfect against them is just so incredibly impressive. No hyperbole, in that statement at all. And again, credit where credit is due. Dave Roberts maneuvered that bullpen like a puppet master. I mean,
let's talk Dave Roberts. Talk to me about Dave Roberts, because this is a guy who's gotten dumped on, and rightfully so at times.
Rightfully so, absolutely.
But how many decisions did he have to make tonight? A lot. How many did he get wrong? 0. He got 0 decisions wrong tonight in a game where every move was going to be criticized, and he batted 1,000. Unbelievable.
And this is an area of the game where he has, in the past, consistently screwed it up. It's why his reputation with the fan base is what it is. It's the reason why there was any talk at all of, if the Dodgers lose this, could his job be on the line? That's the only reason, is because of past failures in October by him.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, like, you can talk about, like, over the course of a season, a manager really only affects the outcome of like 7 to 10 games. It's true. But in the postseason, it's different because
Yeah.
how much every game matters and how every maneuver leads to that win or that loss.
And there's just more moves
And
to be
there's
made.
more moves to be had, especially in the National League, especially before the DH. And so the way he maneuvered this bullpen in game 1, in game 4, and in game 5, actually even in the game they lost when Teo hit the grand slam in game 3, in 4 out of these 5 games, he was masterful in how he deployed the bullpen, when he deployed certain arms, how he moved around a guy like Evan Phillips, how he used Kopech before the 8th or the 9th inning, like how he decided, you know what, I see Manny Machado coming soon. We're going to save Trinan for the 9th. Like all of that kind of stuff. Credit where credit is due. Like you said, he was masterful. I promise you, if he had screwed this up, I'd be the first one to criticize him. I have been in the past. I've written about it. I've spoken about it. This series was a masterclass for Dave Roberts in the one area, bullpen management, where he had been a disaster in the past.
Yeah.
And it helps that he's got the arms to get the outs. That absolutely helps. But again, he pushed all the right buttons.
Yeah. Look, let me go through the decisions that Dave Roberts had to make. Okay. First of all, and this is a group decision, wasn't on Dave. They decided to start Yoshinobu Yamamoto tonight, not go with the bullpen game, not go with Jack Flaherty. 10 out of 10, A+ decision. Okay. Second, Kiké Hernández comes in for Miguel Rojas. I would say not a complicated decision. Everybody expected that. But then he moved Kiké Hernández up in the lineup. He put him 8th, and then they actually changed it. He put him 7th. He hits the home run. So I think he gets credit there. Staying on that side, he takes out Teoscar Hernandez, makes a defensive sub, and brings in Chris Taylor. You might not have noticed that because the ball never got hit out there, but he made a defensive sub there. Then he moves Muncy to first, puts Kiké at third. Kiké makes 2 great plays in the 9th inning. So pulls all the strings there. Then on the pitching side, Yamamoto, 5 innings, leaves him out there for the 5th, pulls him before the 6th. Evan Phillips gets you 3 outs, leaves Evan Phillips in, who gets 2 more outs, goes to Vesia, doesn't try and get too aggressive with Phillips, goes to Vesia, gets the strikeout. Vesia gets hurt. Kopech for 3, no problem. Again, I was worried about Kopech. Then I was like, leave him in. Nope, goes straight to Blake Trinan, perfect. I mean, that's like 7 decisions, major decisions that I just laid out. And every single one of them was an A+. To your point, yes, when you go to Evan Phillips, Vesia, Kopech, and Trinan, and they don't allow any hits or walks, like it helps. It makes you look smarter. But part of that, if we're going to crush Dave when these guys stink, we've got to, again, give him some credit when these guys do an A+ job. So kudos to Dave, kudos to the bullpen, kudos to Yamamoto on just unbelievable performance.
And because of the scores, every move was a high leverage, high impact, high consequence kind of move.
Yep.
And they were all correct. He made them all correctly.
Yeah. Some more super chats here. Ravens Moreland, San Diego afraid to lose in LA after their antics. Who was it? Estrada who said that the Dodgers should be banned from hosting Game 5 because of their behavior in Game 2. Good news for you, Estrada. You are not needed at any point tonight, buddy. So you didn't have to play a Game 5 in Los Angeles. Enjoy the trip back down. Will says the same. Send them back to the gas lamp scoreless. Go Dodgers. I believe it's since the 3rd inning in Game 3. That was the last time that they scored, I believe is the stat. 24 consecutive scoreless for the Dodgers. Crazy. Peyton, if the Dodgers don't re-sign Teo, I'll be extremely upset. Look, I was on about 12 text chains, Anthony, when he hit the home run. That was, why have we not extended this guy? They better extend him. Teos, you're in the dugout. Hey, this is why I came to LA. Look, this is an off-season conversation, but I'll ask you now. He has to come back, right? Like they have to bring him back. I mean, they bring back Kiké, who stinks in the regular season, just so he can be good in the postseason. If you have a guy who can be good in both, I know he stinks defensively, but you got to bring Teoscar back at this point, right?
He's going to cost quite a bit more than Kiké, but yes, it's just money to this team. They print it. You have to bring this guy back. He hit that home run, and one of my nephews who was at this watch party we were having, decked out in Dodger shorts, Dodger jersey, Dodger hat. And he's about 11 or so. And he stands up on a stool and says, "Give that man a blank check." And I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yes. Like, preteens understand that you got to bring this guy back. Absolutely. You have to bring Teo back to this club.
The good news is they'll extend him the qualifying offer, which will probably bad news for Teo, good news for you Dodgers fan if you want him back. It will be bad for his market, but I imagine that everybody is going to want this deal to get done. And the way things are going, and if they continue, I don't think there's going to be any animosity in those negotiations either. Odin, the third inning double play was huge. Let's talk about this, Anthony, because this was the one moment where the Padres had a runner in scoring position and where things got a little bit hairy. Yamamoto put guys on first and second with one out for Tatis, and Tatis had a 3-1 count. And he threw a perfect breaking ball to induce a double play that the Dodgers turned without any issues. I'm a Will Smith guy. Everybody knows that. Will Smith has been getting crushed for his game calling at various points over the last few months.
Sure.
And I'm not saying entirely unfair. All I'm going to say is Will Smith knew Tatis was not trying to take a walk with two guys on in a 1-0 game. Tatis was going to be aggressive. So he calls for a breaking ball that Yamamoto perfectly locates and then induces the double play. I just thought it was a great call. It was a great pitch, and he gets the job done against the best hitter on the other team in the biggest spot. No issues for Yamamoto.
It was a great pitch call for sure. It was executed perfectly. And we talked about like some of the mistakes that Yamamoto made and got away with. And like, oh yeah, this could have been ugly had those, gotten barreled up. Sure. But he also made a good handful of pitches like that one.
Yeah.
That either, got strikeouts or got guys to hit something weakly or whatever. And that was one of them. And that was, I think, where a lot of air came out of whatever momentum the Padres were trying to build. Yeah. Because they were navigating the heart of their order with their best player at the plate in a situation that for most of the series before this, at least against starting pitching, he had come through against.
Right.
And for that to happen right there, I think was a point of the game where everybody went, you know what? This can happen.
Totally. No, it was a huge moment. And again, he was up to the task every single time he was needed. By the way, over 5,000 people in here. My prediction, correct. 5,050 in now and still growing. We still got some time to go, baby. Let's hit 6. Let's keep it going. Gray with the super chat. Thank you, Gray. No comment, but we appreciate that. Peyton Brown, props to our awesome bullpen. Absolutely. He also wants to know any word on if Vesia is okay. No word. Vesia again gets the third out in the 7th. He's throwing his warm-up pitches, calls over for Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts comes and gets him. Kopech comes in. Can I take off my Dodgers hat, Anthony, and put on my tinfoil hat here for just a second? Is there any chance? Is there any chance they sent Vesia back out there knowing they were going to go to Kopech? Is there any chance that they did that either A, to kind of mess with the Padres a little bit, thinking that Vesia is going to be the guy, and then all of a sudden it's Kopech, or even B, maybe they're a little worried about Kopech getting a little too excited, so they say, hey, just go throw a few warm-up pitches. We don't want Mike to be thinking about this one for 25 minutes before he's got to come into a game. Any chance? 0% chance? 1% chance? Where are we at?
I'd be lying if I say that didn't cross my mind. Was Kopech warming up at all before that?
I don't think so. That was like the longest commercial break, and then they went back to a even longer commercial break.
Yeah, that tells me I don't think it was. I don't think that they would play that game and then make Kopech get loose like that.
Yeah,
I think if they were doing that, maybe he gets loose a half inning before, gets ready, and say, "Hey, we're gonna do this. Like, just stay hot." That kind of thing, maybe. But he hadn't been up yet, and to come in like that cold, I think that tells me that there unfortunately, was something bothering Vesia. Hopefully it's not serious. I have not seen an update yet. They're still pouring champagne, I think, in the clubhouse. So I don't think Dave's spoken yet about it.
And I'll say this, by the way, Vesia, when a guy like that comes off the mound as hyped up as he did in the 7th, it kind of worries me when he has to go sit for 10 minutes and then come back out afterwards. Because it's like your body is just not built to have the adrenaline high. Somebody said he has Red Bull pumping through his veins, which is a pretty good explanation of Alex Vesia. So again, I was nervous about Kopech, but in hindsight, Vesia trying to come back after the emotional high. Anyways, it worked out. Friedman, by the way, says that it was just a back flare-up per Fabian Ardaya. Okay. So we do have that going our way. Gray says, give Teo the contract. How are we feeling about Yoshi moving forward? Go Dodgers. I mean, Anthony, is the guy we saw tonight, the Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the guy that you are expecting to see next time he pitches? or is it somewhere in between kind of what was it, like 3 innings, 5 earned and 5 innings shutout? Like, is he somewhere in between there? Or do you think that the bona fide ace we saw today, that they paid more money than any pitcher in history has ever gotten, is the guy that we can expect moving forward?
I think at the moment, like, this is sort of like a spring training still for him. Like, this is early in like a second part of the season for him because he was hurt for so long, and the kind of injury that it was, like, it wasn't one that he could keep throwing. And so I think he's somewhere in between, but closer to what we saw tonight. And I don't think he's exactly this yet because of some of those mistakes, some of those middle pitches, not having a perfect feel yet for that splitter, because when he was going well earlier in this season, that splitter was it was devastating. It was one of the best knockout pitches in baseball. So hopefully it continues to progress. The thing about him tonight, though, was like, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but he wasn't perfect in terms of like command and location and stuff.
Yeah.
But, we talk about this team's like grit and grind and all of that. Yoshi's got that.
Yeah.
Because he did not have A+ stuff today, and he did it against one of the better lineups in all of baseball, and he put them on their behinds.
Yeah. And look, the fastball, people were joking, was a little bit froggy, 97 miles an hour that he was touching there.
He started doing that against the Yankees, though, and then, and we saw that, and then it has sort of carried over. Like, he might have found something in there. The adrenaline boost helps, right? Like, he was a little juiced tonight for sure.
1.2 miles an hour faster on average with his fastball than he was all season. 96.7 the average fastball. The splitter up almost 2 miles an hour. The cutter up almost 2 miles an hour. So he had the juices flowing, but he did a pretty good job of at least keeping guys honest and locating stuff inside of the strike zone. John Bleeding Blue, let's go. Absolutely. I'm with you there. Rod says, why was Pages in center in the 9th replacing Chris Taylor? He was not replacing Chris Taylor. Kiké moved to third base, and so Pages was replacing Kiké Hernandez in center field. Chris Taylor was already playing left field. So I will be curious, Anthony, depending on Rojas's health, I'll be curious to see if a guy like Kevin Kiermaier sneaks back onto this roster, because if Rojas is not going to be available and Freddie Freeman is going to need to be subbed defensively, Muncy moved over, I don't think any of us love the idea of Andy Pages playing center field in a big moment. So do you think we'd have to find out, is it Chris Taylor? Chris Taylor was a defensive sub for Teoscar. So I don't know would he be taking Pages' spot? I mean, that's the interesting thing to watch for.
I mean, if Rojas is done,
that's true. If Rojas is unavailable, then
he's the guy. Yeah, then he's the guy. And I could see him, if he's healthy, creeping back in, because the Edmonds then just your everyday shortstop.
Yeah.
Which I think everybody's totally fine with. So, and you're right. You don't want Pages playing center field. We've had this conversation when you and I have been on before.
Yeah.
We cannot see him in high leverage situations or playoff games being your center fielder. You just can't. We've seen it go incredibly poorly in the past, and it's not something you want to lean on when kind of a line shot is hit it to dead center and he's going back on it.
Yeah. Atol says, thought there was no chance after game 3. Love to see the crazy comeback for once. Kiké with the athletic plays to end it stood out. Again, this team was down 2-1 in San Diego and responded by outscoring the Padres 10-0 over the last 2 games. They scored the last 15 runs. The Padres were held scoreless by the last 24 innings of this one. This by a team, by the way, that had pitching was the problem for the Dodgers. 24 consecutive shutouts. So look, you weren't alone. There were a lot of people when we did the post-game show after game 2 that were disappointed. You, I believe, did the post-game show after game 3, and I can only imagine the negativity in that one. But comes full circle, the Dodgers win 2 straight against the Padres. And, I know this one was only 2-0, but considering the Padres from the 3rd inning on never put a runner on base, let alone one time they had a runner in scoring position all game, it's pretty as dominant and as comfortable a 2-0 victory, Anthony, as is humanly possible. So
yeah, and I think it just felt out of reach at that point because the bullpen had been so good. Yeah. It was a situation where I think they had it was a cumulative effect where they had been so good for 2 games already. The Padres had not figured them out. They get Yamamoto out. They have to face the bullpen. Evan Phillips just is absolutely dirty. Yeah, dirty. And you understand now why he's the fireman on this roster. I mean,
Yep.
he's so good. Doesn't matter where you deploy him. And then when they get that second run, they hit that, and the way, big home run by Teoscar Hernandez, who's become a fan favorite, that place goes berserk.
Yeah.
I think all of that combined led to a sort of, a feeling in that stadium that, like, you know what, we're going to win this. And then on the other side, sort of an aura of like, I don't think we can do this.
Yeah.
Like, we're up against it now. And it just felt like they suffocated the air out of whatever hope that offense had. Again, credit goes to Dave, but a ton of credit to those guys, because they came in and every pitch they threw in this game tonight was high leverage, and they all performed.
Yeah. Not Jeff Spiegel. Jeff, I want you to say it. It's Keektober. Does that count? Does reading your message count? No, you missed it. I said it earlier. I want the record to show I predicted a big hit from Kiké Hernández, but to Matthew Moreno, to not Jeff Spiegel, Keektober, baby. The post-game interview, Keektober. Defensive plays in 9th, Keektober. Home run, Keektober. So shout out to Kiké Hernández. Unbelievable stuff from him. Peyton Brown, back to the Yoshinobu Yamamoto conversation. Dave told Yoshi to pitch his best and not worry about innings, which I think helped Yoshi's mentality. Maybe. I mean, I feel like he probably has said the same thing to him for the last few months. It's not like they've been asking him to get 6 innings at any point. But I just think Yamamoto was like better tonight. Like, I think his fastball was faster. He was commanding it. He was throwing strikes. They talked on the broadcast. I'm not a big John Smoltz guy. I thought he did a decent job.
I was just going to say that.
He talked about, the split finger not looking like a strike at any point, and basically was surprised and said, man, he's just going fastball, 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 fastball. Well, tonight it worked. It got the job done. We talked about the whiff rate wasn't amazing. The hard hit stuff wasn't amazing, but got the job done. So I don't know if it was an innings thing, but I imagine, Anthony, for all of the Dodgers starting pitchers, when you've got 7 guys behind you in the bullpen, it probably takes a little pressure off of you to feel like, dang, I've got to get to the 6th inning. I got to conserve energy. Now it's like, hey, if I can get 4, those 7 dudes are shutting it down. Like, if I can even get this thing into the 4th or the 5th, it's going to be a wrap when Trinan, Kopech, Phillips, Vesia, Bonda, Hudson, and those guys take over.
Yeah, for sure. I think that helps. And I think that it being his second start helped. He looked a little more comfortable. He looked a little looser and a little freer. It was coming out of his hand. It looked like a little better with a little more pop. That fastball, not only did he crank it up, but it felt like it had like a little late life to it. Like it got on guys a little quicker. And I think in those instances where he left pitches middle, like he left in 2 consecutive at bats, he left Manny Machado pitches that he would normally tee off on.
Yeah. And he came close, 2 to the warning track.
Exactly. And I think that little late life to it at that velocity kept those balls in the park.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they were mistakes location wise, but he had enough stuff on it tonight that while it wasn't great, it was good enough. And I think that if he starts to settle in and he goes, okay, now I understand Major League Baseball playoff environment. I can do this. I got this. He might be that freak ace that this rotation is now missing because of the other injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, again, thank you to everybody joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. This is DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. If you are new around here, click the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, because we are coming at you live after every single Dodgers postseason series, which, hey, at least is going to be 4 more games in the NLCS against the New York Mets. So make sure you're here with us. Check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. Just crossed the 5,600 person mark across Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So thank you. Let's get to some more super chats. Carolina, let's talk Mets. How do we stack up? Go Dodgers. I'll be honest, I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about the Mets. I've been worried about the Dodgers and the Padres. A quick bit, they won 20 of their last 29 regular season games. Of course, they take 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee and then 3 out of 4 against the Phillies. So kudos to them in both of those series. It's funny to look at a team, Anthony, that wasn't aggressively trying to get better, because it probably didn't really think this was possible. And yet here they are. This is sort of the team of destiny type of thing. It's not the best team. It's not a lineup that's going to scare you the same way the Padres lineup scares you. It's not a pitching staff or a bullpen that's going to scare you the same way the Padres pitching staff and bullpen does. And yet it's a team that's won 25 of their last like 30, 36 games. So they're one of the hottest teams in baseball, which, as I said earlier, matters more than being one of the best.
Absolutely. And they've got a little magic in them.
Yeah.
You've watched them get to this point. It's taken some magic, big home runs, big pitching performances. I mean, Sean Manaea was dealing for them. Sean Manaea was dealing for them. You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff that improbable runs are made of. We've seen it with Giants, the Royals, countless teams.
Yeah.
And so, they're scary in that way. They are, because it feels like they just figure it out when they need to, even when it looks like that, they may not have it. And so, again, on paper, the Dodgers are clearly the better roster. The way they perform on the mound after game 2 doesn't look like any team that's left would really touch them if they continue to do this. Like they've been lights out. But
are you ready for Francisco Lindor versus Shohei Ohtani MVP conversations for the New York media for the next week?
And okay, now this popped into my head when you said earlier, like, how do they do that? How do they convince themselves they're the underdog against the New York Mets, who have not been a great team all season? I think it's stuff like that.
They think their guy's better than our guy.
I think so, man. Look, these guys look for any little slight, anything, right? And it's like, this New York media, the East Coast bias, they said that Lindor should be the MVP because he plays shortstop and Ohtani's just a DH. And, they're the hottest team in baseball, so they're going to run through it. Like, they're going to figure out ways, I think, to make this work for them. I think if they couldn't convince themselves, Mookie wouldn't have said what he said tonight. The Kiké quote, which we're not going to repeat, basically he said, "I don't give a blank." Or we don't. He said, "We don't," as a team.
Yeah.
Like, in describing like their mentality, I think that's it right there. That's the different feel. And like Dave had said before this series started, I think, like he said, this team feels different. Like the mentality feels like it feels like it's a little different. I think that's the kind of stuff they're talking about. And I think in those 2 losses there, it started to creep back in. It's naturally they're losing games, right? But I think that they really now, like, this series will solidify that, you know what? Yeah, this is who we are. And when our back's against the wall, now we know we can do it. And I think that's a key. They were down. They faced 2 elimination games in this series and got outclassed for the majority of innings through those first 3 games. And they came back and they still won the series. And not only did they win the series, but they beat them down.
Yeah.
And I know it was a beatdown tonight.
And against one of the best teams in baseball. Again.
Correct. And so I think that goes a long way in their clubhouse.
Brody says, I think the Dodgers offense matches up really well versus the Mets. Do you think Padres could be a key against the Mets lefties? It looks like the Mets had 4 left-handed pitchers on their NLDS roster. That was not something the Dodgers really had to deal with, except for out of the bullpen. I thought a guy like Gavin Lux, he never had to come off because Martin Perez was going to be the one lefty starter, and he never appeared in this series. So I haven't dug too far into the Mets, the makeup of their bullpen, the makeup of their rotation, and that kind of a thing. But yes, if there are lefties, Kiké Hernández is going to be seeing a lot of the field. Chris Taylor, Andy Pages are all going to be guys who could make big impacts. So we appreciate. And again, Brody, to your point, if the Dodgers offense matches up well, Anthony just said the pitching is going to match up well against everybody the way the bullpen is going right now. So if the Dodgers offense can get rolling, because they weren't tonight, they scored 8 last night. They did pretty well, I would say, on the whole in this series when you look at total number of runs scored. But if they can, I think the pitching is going to get worse from here on out, not better.
Agree. I agree.
Against them.
Right. Correct. Also, like, if that lefty abundance stays that way for the NLCS, big series for Tommy Edman.
Yeah, could be. He was a lot of people's X factor. Didn't show up yet, but there's still time. Gray says, absolute nails by Freddie with the injury. He got so many balls and battled through. How do we feel going into game 1? I love Flaherty for it. Yeah. First, about Freddie Freeman, there was the one play where he makes a few steps to his right, and it's a couple things. It's not only pain management, but it's also getting his footwork right and making sure he's stepping where he's supposed to be stepping so his glove doesn't get kicked. If you haven't had an ankle sprain, then you will not appreciate what Freddie Freeman is going through. This is an injury where he shouldn't be playing baseball. He should be resting with his foot up, sitting on the couch, but he's gutting it out. Now, hopefully it gets a little bit better. I mean, they only get one off day, I believe. They play Sunday, so they only get one off day, but hopefully he can get some rest, elevate that bad boy. They don't have to travel. That's the good news. Dodgers get to host this one. So get some rest, get off the ankle, and hopefully he gets better. But how do we feel? I agree with Gray on this one. I love that Jack Flaherty didn't need to be used at any point tonight. Not that we were expecting him to, but I feel good about Flaherty being ready to go. I know the Mets had, 1 or 2 extra days off ahead of this one, but the Dodgers have Flaherty. They have Buehler for games 1 and game 2. And the way those two guys, I think they match up okay. Like, again, I still think the Dodgers are not going to win with starting pitching. Their starting pitching just needs to be good enough. And I think both Flaherty and Buehler, I have confidence in them for different reasons that they can give me that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they have to be good enough. This lineup is not as potent as the one that they just faced. And I think they both have shown recently that they can be good enough. And I think, the pitching that the Dodgers are going to face is not as good. Doesn't mean that they might not struggle at times, but I think that they are going to be able to score against this pitching staff. It's just a matter of, can they keep a hot lineup down? And I do have confidence in Flaherty going into game 1. I like him for it. And we know now that if needed, a bullpen game can absolutely keep this team in it. And if this team hits during that bullpen game, it's almost a no-brainer. Yeah.
So Sunday, Monday are games 1 and game 2. That'll be Flaherty and Buehler. Game 3 is on Wednesday. That will not be enough time for Yamamoto. They know they want to give him 5 days off in between starts. So Yamamoto will be game 4. So they will need somebody for game 3, whether it's Landon Knack or a bullpen game remains to be seen. To your point, off day right before it. Could they go bullpen game? Yes. Do they want to risk that? In a 7-game series, I think they're more likely to maybe try and get something out of a guy like Landon Knack than they would be in a 5-game series. Just my guess. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, and it also depends on where they're at in the series, like up or down.
Yep, true.
I think had they not been down 2-1 in this series, we probably would have seen a Landon Knack game. But I think given the situation, and it was a do or die game, they decided to go with the bullpen side of it. So yeah, I'm with you. I think longer series, helps that cause. But also, kind of where they sit in the series when it comes up.
Yeah. And I see some people in the chat asking about Tony Gonsolin. Yeah, I'm not entirely positive about when he could be back, but I think the timeline lines up. He could be an option. Now, would he be an option for more than an inning or 2? Remains to be seen, but something to keep an eye on over these next couple of days. And if Matt Moreno, when we get some updates from him, we'll make sure to ask that question. S.C. Bradfield, go Dodgers. Great vibes going into the weekend. Absolutely. Friday night, Saturday night with no Dodgers stress to worry about game 1. I mean, they can't, Anthony, there's no stressful Dodgers games, at least for a few days. I mean, I'm not going to be stressed game 1 or game 2. I think game 3 would be the earliest I might get a little bit stressed, but that's Wednesday and Thursday. It's a long way away.
I say I won't be now until it's 1-1 in the 3rd inning or 4th inning of game 1 on Sunday. And then I'll get sweaty palms again, I'm sure. But yeah, it feels good to not have to be in a do or die situation for half a week. I'll say that.
Amanda says, if you had to pick an MVP for the series, who would it be? And my caveat is you're not allowed to say the bullpen as a group. You've got to pick a player. There's some choices. Obviously, Kiké has the big hit tonight. Teoscar Hernandez, a pair of home runs. Mookie Betts got some runs scoring opportunities early in a couple of games as well. Yamamoto, not good really in his first start, so he's probably not really an option. Who would you go with?
Man.
I feel like in my mind, the 2 names that I'm bouncing between are Teoscar Hernandez and Mookie Betts.
Those are the same 2 I am. And also for me, Phillips and Trinan.
I was going to say, I think you can make a case for either of those guys because they came up in big spots and were shut down. I mean, what was the stat on Phillips? I think he faced 13 batters in this series and he retired all 13 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
So
he was outstanding.
Yeah. So Teoscar, Mookie Betts, Trinan, or Phillips, I think would be the 4 guys that are kind of in the mix on this one. If you had to choose, I mean, Teoscar hits the grand slam, but it ends up being in a losing effort.
In a
Mookie
loss,
feels
right.
significant just because of how early in games those came and just sort of the bad vibes that he had before, that the team had in
also
early
think
innings.
if Profar doesn't catch that first one, it's probably Mookie going away.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. So options. You want to pick here? I guess I won't force you to choose somebody. I'll take Teoscar.
Okay, I'll take Phillips.
Okay, there you go. Evan Phillips. I love that. Although I picked Trinan to be the most impactful reliever before the series, Anthony. So that doesn't really help my vibes there. VDSF, we appreciate a pair of super chats. Willie Adamas watching the Dodgers celebrate, thinking soon. Hey, Tommy Edman is here for one more year, but the Dodgers need a center fielder and a shortstop, so they could go either direction. Carolina says it's going to be a long bus ride back to San Diego. Who's your Padre? I mean, Daddy. Again, if you have not seen the Vassay interview where he talks about the Padres being the Sacramento Kings to the Dodgers, LA Lakers of the Shaq and Kobe years, I mean, it is gold. And I literally said, well, who's going to be Shaq? And he said, it'll be me. It's me. And then he called them the Madres. Unbelievable stuff in Vassay. We're going to have to call back that one and say, hey, David, we need you back at some point. Maybe it's tomorrow. We need another Vassay preview because it worked so well the first time. Peyton says Yoshi seems to do well in New York, which lines up well versus both the Mets and potentially the Yankees. That is true. Yoshi's best start of the season prior to tonight was against the Yankees. So maybe there's a little bit of good vibes there in the city of New York, Anthony.
Yeah, get some good Japanese food there. He feels a little more at home, a little more comfortable. Yeah, I'll take that vibe.
Maybe. Let's see. Saki Bomb says Vesia reports issues with his side cramping. Do we have any other option for a lefty besides Bonda? Is the question. If it's side cramps, I feel like he'll be fine.
I think so, yeah.
As far as other lefties on the roster, I mean, Robleski is a lefty. I don't know if you literally just wanted another lefty. Again, I haven't done enough digging on the Mets to know, like, are there matchups like Jackson Merrill, Cronenworth, guys that you're like, hey, we need a lefty in this spot no matter what. But something to keep an eye on.
I think if we're looking for positives here, I think the positive thing is he reported it after he went back in after getting out of that previous inning, and then they sent him back out to warm up to see how it felt. I think had it been a serious thing, they would not have let him go back out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. David says, hey, Paisan, my food app picture turned the whole series around. Do you agree with this?
I look. He sent it to us. I'm pretty sure you were tagged. He tags us in his food pics.
Yes.
And he said pregame meal, and I said, I hope this is a good luck meal for the Dodgers. And they haven't lost since. And so David might be onto something here.
Yeah. There you go. Well, hey, I just want to know when we're going to get invited to these meals. And I know mine would include a plane ticket, but it looks good. I'm just saying Anthony and I are the two, and Daniel would be the three most likely to eat whatever you're serving. Matt usually looks and says 50%, I'll take it. And Scott and Blake are just total wild cards. Gray, again, Teo said he loves his team. I don't like to look to next year right now, but what does a Teo contract look like? Love you, Jeff, East Coast fan. Go Dodgers. Again, I think it's going to be tough to evaluate because he's going to have the qualifying offer attached to him, which is just going to depress the market because another team, if they were to sign him, it'd cost them a first round pick or a second round pick. So it's hard for me to speculate on exactly what that contract would look like, Anthony. But I mean, I would imagine he making $25 million a year this year. It's got to be in the $20 to $25 million a year range for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think if we like square numbers, like round numbers, I would say 4 for 100.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking, or 5, and maybe it's a little bit cheaper. Maybe it's closer to 5 for 100 or something like that. But it's going to be expensive. But again, it's if this team wins, especially, money is not going to be an issue for them. So
if they win a World Series and he continues to be a big reason why, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever that contract ends up playing out like, the first year was all that mattered. Who cares?
Yeah. And again, he wants to be here. I think that's the key. This isn't like, and again, this is no disrespect to Corey Seager. Corey Seager was, if you want to believe, he wanted to leave, or at least he was incredibly open to leaving. Like, it was neutral. LA did not hold a place in his heart that said he was going to take a discount or even like the same amount of money. It didn't seem
Sure.
like.
Right.
Whereas a guy like Teoscar, by all accounts, seems like the type of guy, hey, let's just make this happen. Like, what's the number where we need to make this work, where you're happy and I'm happy and I like it here and we're playing. I loved the interview in the middle of the game where Ken Rosenthal said, have you ever been in a stadium this loud? And he said, no, but I love it. And that's the type of stuff. That's the type of stuff you want to see with a guy like.
We talked about this like in the middle of the summer. Like he's brought a different vibe to this team. This team it felt like more fun loving. He brought Shohei Ohtani out of his shell. Like, he's infectious. He's like Kiké, but like an everyday player who's more productive, and like that matters too, right? And so like he won the home run derby, like all of this stuff, right? It all plays into this like this personality that Teoscar Hernandez is. I love it. Dodger Stadium loves it. He has endeared himself into this fan base in less than a season, and I think LA has done the same for him. I think they're going to figure this out.
Yeah, and just looking, by the way, at some other guys who are going to be free agents this offseason, Teoscar Hernandez is not even in the top like 5 to 10 necessarily of these, or excuse me, he's not in the top 10 of the list that I'm looking at when you've got guys like Juan Soto, Blake Snell, Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, among others. So I think some of the amount of outfielders in the market is going to be helpful to the Dodgers. By the way, over 6,000 people in here now on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. By far the biggest show I believe we've ever had. So kudos to you. Thank you to everybody that's in here joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Anthony, we're going to get to some questions here. If you've got any questions left, throw those in the chat. All caps questions. We'll get to as many as we can. Again, if you're new here, thank you for joining us. Subscribe, ring the notification bell down below. We would love to have you join us. We'll be doing all sorts of content pretty much every day of the week. Nowadays, we've got credentialed reporters that are in locker rooms at Dodger Stadium and on the road. So we got interviews and all sorts of press conference content that'll be right here. So subscribe and then ring the notification bell. Hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate that. And join us next time we do a pregame show, a postgame show, a morning live show, whatever it might be. We would love to have you. Howie Land, are in-game interviews good or annoying? I think they're good content. I enjoy them. It doesn't seem to bother the players as much as it bothers the people online. And yet I hated when they went to Teoscar. I loved the interview, but I didn't like that. I loved what he said. I loved the content. I didn't like the idea of that interview right there, Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get good stuff. To me, most of the time it's lame. I'm not a big fan of it. It's something that all these broadcasts have built in, and they think it's good content, I guess. Like it's like in the NBA when you do the coach interviews between quarters and all that stuff. Like it's fine. I guess it doesn't hurt the broadcast, but like they rarely say anything great. Like, Teoscar tonight said something cool if you're a Dodger fan. But beyond that, I think they're mostly annoying.
Yeah. Matt hates them. Matt hates the ones where they're in the field even more. At least
those are bad. I'm not okay with those. I don't like those. Like those to me are not okay. I don't like that.
Yeah, I love it.
Because you have an opportunity to affect the game.
Yeah.
And I think that should be number one of things that cannot happen when you're setting up something like this.
All right, we got 5 questions here. Let's do these rapid fire. I'll go in reverse order. Robin says, what do you think has been Dave Roberts' best decision he made in this series? Again, bullpen decisions, starting pitching decisions, pinch hitting decisions, etc. For me, and again, I was deflecting blame ahead of time because I don't think this was only a Dave Roberts decision, but I'm going to give him credit because I think he was probably in the room. Yamamoto starting game 5. Hands down to me, the best decision Dave Roberts made.
Yeah, that's good.
Again, that's a pregame one, so I'm kind of cheating because I think the question's probably more so talking in-game adjustments. I think I'll go Yamamoto because I think it was controversial.
Yeah. For me, I think it was how he deployed Evan Phillips, he's the guy I picked as my MVP for the series, and he was fantastic. I also think the other one for me is I think it was game 1, going Kopech in the 8th and Treinen in the 9th, when typically since Kopech had been on the team, it had been the other way around.
Yeah, I agree. And somebody can correct me. I almost feel like he went to Kopech in the 7th. Like, I think it was
Maybe
early.
it was. Yeah,
Because
maybe
it
it
almost
was.
felt like Kopech carried over and then maybe Trinan got 5 outs or something. But
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Yeah.
Jason says, does this series win feel better than the 3-1 comeback versus the Braves in the NLCS of 2020?
That was pretty good.
It's pretty. I mean, that was to go to a World Series.
That was
I'll
pretty
say
good.
I hate the Padres more than I hate the Braves. And obviously, knowing what we know now, that the Dodgers would go on to win the World Series in 2020. But I said that Giants game 5 in 2021,
Yeah, that
Padres
was
game
huge.
5 in 2024, and Braves game 7 in 2020. That's how I would rank my stress levels for those 3 games. So on that account, I would say this feels better. Beating the Giants and beating the Padres felt better than beating the Braves, even though it was the NLCS. That might be a hot take, but that's where I'm at.
Giants is one for me, but then I flip-flop the Braves and the Padres.
GI says, how many at-bats do you see Lux getting versus Mets left-handed starters? Do you think Lux is out of the lineup? I wonder if, honestly, I think a lot of this is going to have to do if Rojas is healthy.
It depends on Rojas. Yeah, if Rojas is hurt and he doesn't play, then Lux is going to get all of them.
Yeah, I think I agree entirely. Gray wants to know, what does Freddie Freeman look like going forward? More
Like
the
you
same,
saw
right?
tonight. Like
Yeah.
you saw tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe slightly better. I mean, he stole a base in game 1. Remember that. So, I mean, there's still some hope, but this injury is not going to get a whole lot better the way that he's treating it. Okay, last question here, I think. Dave H. Dodger over Mets in ... 6 ? Your thoughts. Give me a series prediction. Night of, knee-jerk reaction, Dodgers Mets, Dodgers home field advantage. Series kicks off on Sunday. Who you got?
They leave LA 1-1 and we panic. And then the Dodgers don't lose the rest of the series. So Dodgers in 5.
Dodgers in 5. Love that. Love that. I'll go Dodgers in 6. 6 always feels like a cop-out. 5 feels hard. 7 feels complicated. 6 is right in the middle, but give me Dodgers in 6. And hey, I believe it was me, Daniel, and Scott all had Dodgers in 5. I can't remember. Were you Dodgers in 5 or Dodgers in 4?
This series?
Yeah. Did you make a prediction?
I was not on a show that we actually did a prediction on.
Okay.
For some reason, I think just the way it broke. But I think before this series started, I would have said Dodgers in 4.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. The longer these series get, the better the Dodgers odds are. Like, stupider crap can happen in a 5-game series.
I agree.
It can still happen in a 7-game series, but losing one stupid game is not nearly the death blow that it feels like in a 5-game series. So I think the fact that they're playing unquestionably a team that is worse than the Padres. I'm not saying they're bad, but the Padres, I think, were either 1A or 1B in all of Major League Baseball. The fact that the series is longer, and again, I think the Dodgers and Dodger fans in agreement feel better about this team and are more confident in themselves, in this team, than they were a week ago. Throw all that into a bucket, and you've got the Dodgers heading into the series with the Mets. Scott with the super chat. We appreciate it, Scott. If you meant to leave a question or a comment, we'll give you a couple minutes. Throw that in the chat. I'll be on the lookout for it, and we'd love to throw that up. But any last thoughts, Anthony, here? We got another super chat here. Harry, yo, LFG, let's freaking go. I think that's what the F means. It's freaking go, Dodgers. Prediction of upcoming player to watch against the Mets. Okay, so looking for an X factor here. You got an X factor, a guy to watch in the series against the Mets, Anthony?
I don't like to do this because it's the same guy I picked for this series, and he was not an X factor. But I think
keep banging your head against the wall, Anthony.
This guy, the matchup seems to be much, much better here. I'm going to say Tommy Edman.
Okay. I got to say Kiké Hernandez after what we just saw. I think he's going to play a lot.
He's definitely going to play more.
I think he's going to play a lot. And if there are more lefties, not that it matters, I just think it's going to be Kiké. So, yeah. And actually, you know what? I'm going to stay with my guy. I feel like I got robbed of being correct in the NLDS, but my X factor in the NLDS was Walker Buehler. And I'll pair Walker Buehler. I think it's going to be 1A and 1B, Kiké and Walker Buehler. I think we're turning back the clock, Anthony. 2021, baby. We're back.
Let's do it.
Here was Scott's question. He said, why are the umps so much better in the playoffs than the regular season? The Dodgers got an unbelievably friendly strike call that was called a ball, I believe, against Ohtani, like in the first inning. And other than that, this guy was like perfect, Anthony. He was unbelievable behind the plate. We don't give him enough credit when they're good. He was fantastic tonight.
Yeah, he was good. They've been good for most of this series. there wasn't anything egregious. I think, the biggest complaint, right, is the ball going off the umpire's arm down the third base line the other night. But other than that, I think they've been fine. I think you just see in general better umpiring because it's
crappy guys all got sent home. They're hanging out with the Padres.
It's somewhat of a meritocracy when it comes to this stuff. Not completely. But yeah, you're typically seeing the umpires who were the best guys in the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, that'll do it. That's Anthony Witrado. I'm Jeff Spiegel. Folks, the Dodgers. You can take a deep breath. You can breathe easy. Pour yourself another drink. The Los Angeles Dodgers are headed to the NLCS to face the Mets. Things kick off on Sunday. We right here will have you covered. I'm sure we will have a live show tomorrow. I'll pencil that one in. Hopefully it's not during the Oregon-Ohio State game because your boy is going to be locked into that bad boy. Hopefully after, maybe before, but not during. We will have a show tomorrow. We will have a show on Sunday night, maybe a pregame show, definitely a postgame show, Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, right here. Anthony and I are scheduled to be back on Tuesday. That, I believe, is scheduled to be an off day, but we'll be here, and I'm sure you'll see both of our faces well before then. Folks, we are over 6,200 people in here, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate every single one of you. We're grateful that you came to party with us here after the Dodgers go ahead and eliminate the San Diego Padres. So Dodgers win 2-0, head into the NLCS against the Mets. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. And as always, go Dodgers.